Hello everyone, welcome back once again to our wonderful little Patron server here on Springrealms, where as you can see a fair bit has gone down with regards to the design of this dungeon. We're making some pretty nice progress. Aeneas has popped on a couple of times, just to sort of do a sort of... what would be the best way of describing this? I guess a sort of... unofficial stream? Sort of informal stream, there's the word I'm looking for. And so far, I'd say they've made some pretty good progress. Like, there's a lot of lightning. Jeez, there's a storm going on at the moment. Let me just quell that. There we go. Nice and quieter, hopefully. Eeh. But anyways, so, sorry, I'm hearing like a weird noise in the background of my headphones. I don't know what that is. I think it stopped. Okay, that's weird. Right, so, yeah. I did ask Aeneas to put together this fun little thing here, which is basically a small miniature of what at least some part of the dungeon will look like. So it's going to be different sort of docks and then boats inside of them. So we've got the boat, and we've got boat, the one I need to finish, which is this one, which I would say is looking pretty good. Especially this this gangplank of sorts here. I like the way this looks. It's detailed, but it's not overly detailed, so it looks functional and mystical, but also looks like it serves a distinct function of being a place where you can stand. But if we jump over to here, it looks pretty good on top, but down here I really like the look of this. It's sort of like lowered sections, missing sections that just sort of tell you this has been here for a while. And I like that. That looks really nice to me. Not going to be doing any command blocky work, because you've seen me do that for like the last 3 episodes. And I think it would be better if we actually got some building work done. But currently this is all that we have. It's going to take me a degree of time. I'm hoping to do a time-lapse, building a bunch more of the dungeon. But I need to get go-ahead from Aeneas on my understanding of the direction first, and who knows, maybe Aeneas will help me out with it as well. But this is going to be sort of a 2-parter episode, so I'm going to be looking at this, talking about the dungeon design, and then I'm going to put together another quest for the server. It will not involve breeding horses, but we should be able to. I think the only difference is that there's a fair few places where you can't spawn horses, so probably the babies are just evaporating, which is a horrifying concept. Anyways, onto this. So, a lot of the central concepts with this dungeon are motion, and how we can affect it, and manipulate it, and absolutely obfuscate it. So if we had, for example, one boat, well, we got these 2 boats here, these are a good example. If we had these boats, and they've got this little sort of deckhand, I guess, area here, what we could do is we can check for anybody who's entering this area from, say, the wrong position, and we can teleport them relatively over to this edition of that particular boat. So you come in and it might look different, it might look identical, but either way you'll be walking out of the wrong ship compared to the one you just walked into. And there's going to be teleports that will say where they're going and will indicate where they're going, but might not go there anyways, but also will allow us to rotate people and teleport people around according to the whims of the dungeon, and perhaps even the Harbour Master as well. And then we've got the enemies. So the enemies we currently have slated are slimes and endermen, which is what our Harbour Master is, one of the endermen of this kind of region. And the slimes are good because they're big, kind of bouncy people. I might give them, like, as a standard, just a jump boost effect, so that they're always bouncing really high, and can therefore get to larger, higher areas, but I want to be able to tone that down a bit as well, because if I'm not very, very careful, they'll just keep jumping and bouncing and dying, more or less, from the falling damage, which, not ideal for a dungeon enemy. But the main idea is you run around here and you take out the pots or whatever, and you irritate the harbour master to the point where he's just like, screw it, I'm going to murder you all now, get out of my harbour. And I'm thinking that this will probably end up being either wider or double direction, or at the very least going to be stacked. Because these are sky ships, they don't need to be, like, on a surface of any kind. They float naturally. So having them be sort of stacked with different iterations of this in different directions makes a fair degree of sense to me. Quite how players are intended to get across these platforms, I don't personally know. Maybe Aeneas is planning on adding in some stairwells here, or some teleports, or even just a jump boost. Or maybe they'll just leave this as is and players will have to deal, because that's a big recurring factor of dungeons on the Springrealms is, the gods were fine here, you're not, deal with it. But I am very excited to get to work on this, get something nice and big and significant completed, and hopefully we'll have this out this month. No promises, but I'm going to do everything in my reasonable power to do so. With that in mind then, let's move on to the second section of this episode, which will not be a time lapse, but I've got one planned, and go add ourselves another quest. Catch you in a mo. Okay, on to the second section of this video, which is a new quest. So, because we've now got the guidebook quest, which requires everybody to have access to ink, Morganth is running out of it, because he hasn't really had a decent supply of the thing for millennia. So, consequently, we now need to add a new quest that allows people to actually get some ink from Morganth. Now, it looks like I'm currently at spawn, doesn't it? And if I check the region data, it will actually tell me that as well. In reality, we are actually right by the Cold Forge, because, as you can see, we have 4 buttons here for the starter quest. At actual spawn, there's another one over here for getting the guidebook quest, and another one over here for clearing your old quest data. So, it doesn't make terribly much sense to put even more buttons for a third quest at spawn. Additionally, this particular quest, getting all of the items together to make some ink, all of the items, more or less, come from here. So it makes a lot more sense to actually have the part where you get the quest and can hand it in and all sorts here. With that in mind, though, we do need to take in some ideas. So the idea here is that you get the materials that get dropped by, let's see if I can find one. Yay, perfect. That get dropped by the furnace drakes, which are enchanted gears, fire charges, and smithing tonic. To that, you add an ethereal brew. I was thinking either an ethereal brew, maybe an anti-spirit from Erinus's dungeon, or even perhaps a dragon spirit from Basilla's, but either way, I think the ethereal brew works out the best for this kind of idea. And you drop them together when you're on the quest, and it turns into a flawed creation, which will then be a little thing that you can slay to get between 6 and 8 ink. So that requires that we actually have some stuff at spawn. So let's hop back there, where I'm actually able to show off something else that I've recently added. So if we hop over to, say, let's go with this one. So, as a consequence, ooh, I need to change those coordinates, jeez. As a recent addition, I have added teleports. I've turned the little particles that are around spawn into teleportation means. So if you are in spirit mode and you fly close enough to one of them, you get to go to one of the currently defeated dungeons. So you can't fly to Aeneas's just yet, but you can fly to Basilla through Placitos quite happily. And that makes it a lot easier for people who are maybe arriving after a given dungeon has been defeated. Maybe they didn't get to participate in the event, but that doesn't mean that they can that they still have to figure out where the dickens it is, because they can fly through it and find it. Grand, nice and central, kind of a means of getting around the server a bit more. That's it though. Let's hop back to spawn, so I can come back down here. Now, it's a little hard for me to show off the main thing, but I can show you this. So here are the corrupted oil ink sacs. Once it gave motion to the motionless, now it is tainted beyond such uses. The idea being that you bungled it up, and consequently created something that's not quite a furnace drake, but fairly close to it. I think I have these down as a Do I not have that? I must not have updated this yet, I think. So if I grab that... There we go, Tainted Creation. I want to change that to Flawed. Flawed sounds a bit better than Tainted, I think, in this regard. And yes, it is a baby pig zomble. So we'll just grab that, and then we'll take a quick hop up, because we can't actually spawn these things in spawn. Because spawn doesn't allow anything to spawn in it, that's why we don't get. That's why it's safe at night and whatnot. I think there's like a small section over here that's slightly outside the boundaries, so we'll use that for now. So, you get your items, you put them together, and you get this teeny little fella who is adorable. And I went with a pig zombie because it looks more messed up, for want of a better description. Otherwise, he resembles very much a furnace drake. But you slay him. Ideally, you're not knocking him off into the void. And you can get yourself some corrupted oil. So that's a nice renewable means by which people can actually get their ink sacs to get more guidebooks, for example. So that'd be right around here. And also to make things like books and quills and all sorts of other stuff. Because ink has been a ridiculously hard thing to come by on this server. Because as it happens... we don't have a lot of water, because we're a Skylands. We don't have a lot of terrain that's actually at the right altitude for squids to spawn, either. So, consequently, we just don't get a lot of squids. Pretty much, we never get them. So having them, having an access to some form of supply is kind of helpful. But anyways, let's get on to building this. So, what we basically need to do is clone the campfire ignition line here. What this is doing is it's looking for a number of specific kinds of item next to an unlit campfire, and then it changes the data of the campfire to ignite it accordingly. So what we need here, let's start it about here. So if I come over here, if I grab a repeating command block, we need to execute from @e tag equals quest ink, which is going to be our grand tag for finding the inks. I'm not entirely certain if I'm going to keep the tag system, because I kind of need to set up a system that will clear those, because I can't change your current quest ID and your quest progress and whatnot and get rid of the tag in the same stroke. And I would kind of need to have a singular... I'd need to have a command block per quest, which could get bulky, but for the time being, not a huge concern. So if we execute from that, we want to scoreboard players tag @e type equals item within, we'll say 3 blocks, add, and we're going to go with ink item 1, provided that the interior item is ID, and we'll start off with Minecraft iron ingot. That's the enchanted gear. We want to have at least a 3 there, and inside of the tag we want to check the lore, because the lore text cannot be duplicated or altered, so it's a great way for us to actually identify things precisely. So we want to display lore. And what is the lore on the enchanted gear? It wants to be fixed. We have to get that case sensitive, so it wants to be fixed. So that will allow us to add the tag to that. So if we have another thing here, so execute @e tag equals ink item 1. We can just add some particles to it for the time being. So particle flame and dip. Okay, so that'll just make it easier for us to identify it. And let me see, scoreboard players tag @p add. We want to give ourselves the tag of quest ink, so that we actually do that, essentially. So now, if I drop a few of these, so 1 doesn't care, 2 doesn't care, 3, there we go. Okay, a little bit wild, but it'll do. Okay, from that, we then want to execute @e tag equals ink item 1. we pretty much want to do the exact same thing as we did in here, but for our next item, adding ink item 2. Now we've got 2 more items, which is the smithing tonic and the ethereal brew. So we don't actually need to have every single piece of lore in this. In fact, the shield system doesn't care about it. So if we just add it flows through them like blood, then we'll get exactly what we need. Perfect. Okay. So now we've got one more little item to add, and that is, of course, the ethereal brew. Okay. We won't test that because we don't need to. We've established, I think, into the ground. So now execute at E or at A tag equals quest ink, and then execute from at E tag equals ink item 1 within 3 blocks. Executing from tag equals ink item 2 within 1 block. Executing to ink item 3. Tag equals ink item 3 r equals 1. And finally, executing from ink item 4. Scoreboard players tag. Actually, no. We'll do an entity data for this because that'll be easier. Entity data at E tag equals ink item 1. R equals 2, C equals 1, which means if there's for some reason multiples of these, it'll just do the 1. Tags do ink spawn. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. So that means that we now have the thing that actually tells all of this stuff to happen. We can break this off into its own little thing now because it's easier. So execute at E tag equals do ink spawn. We want to TP at E tag equals, I'm trying to think, can I do, yeah, I should be able to, okay, kill at E tag equals ink item 2, R equals 1, C equals 1, and while I do that for each of the other ones as well, so put that on chain, always active, ink item 3, load it again, ink item 4, okay, so that cleans things up. Now, from there, we do our little spawning section here. So we want to grab that. So execute at E tag equals do ink spawn. Oh boy, this is going to be a long section of the video, ain't it? Do ink spawn, we summon the pig zombie, and then we just kill at E tag equals do ink spawn. There. Now, currently, there is nothing about this that says to do this outside of spawn. Remember, you can't spawn these things inside of a spawn area, be that Morganth's little mirror darkly kind of hut over there or something else. But that is something to bear in mind. One other last thing I'm going to do here is execute at E tag equals do ink spawn. Scoreboard, scoreboard, there we go, players tag at A, or at P I should put, tag equals quest ink, remove quest ink, and that should be within a range, we'll say 16 blocks, but either way, closest person. Okay, so now, if we go outside spawn, and we do all of that little chucking stuff around, we should be able to get ourselves our flawed creation. So if we do that around here, should do enough. So just get rid of that. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. And... well, I messed something up. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2. There we go. 1 flawed creation. Now I can add all manner of fancy effects to that later if I wish as well. But we've now got this little fella, whom we can murder. and we get ourselves some corrupted oil. Nice. So, hope you've enjoyed that, and I shall catch you all, oh dear, next time.